Hello everyone, a very good evening and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep. Welcome to the last session of Target Prelims 2023. In this session, we shall be covering the important places and locations that were in news over the last 1 year. If you have seen previous UPSC question papers, you would have noticed that UPSC tends to ask a lot of map-based questions based on places and locations that were in news. So today in this special session, we shall be covering around 25 questions through which we will cover many important places and locations that were in the news over the last 1 year. So we really hope you have made the full benefit of the free crash course, and if you have benefited, do let us know in the comment section below. And also don't forget, as soon as you finish your prelims exam on the 28th of May, we shall go live at 7 p.m. on our YouTube channel to discuss the question paper and provide you the answer key. So do attend the session without fail. And also let me wish all those aspirants who are appearing for the exam all the very best. So let's get started with the first question. Which of the following statements is or are correct? The proposed Mekedatu project has turned into a dispute between Karnataka and Kerala. It is proposed to be built on a west-flowing tributary of the Kaveri river. So we need to check which of the given statements are correct, and you cannot answer this question without being familiar with the geography related to the Kaveri river and the Mekedatu project. The poll will also be launched. Let's see how many of you can get the answer right, and meanwhile, let me provide the explanation. So obviously for this session, it's always better for you to keep an atlas with you, or even Google Maps will work. So mark out these important locations, as these topics can appear as a prelims question in this year's paper. The Mekedatu project, which has been asked in the question, it has been making a lot of noise over the last couple of years. The Mekedatu project has turned into a dispute between the state of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. It's not a dispute between Karnataka and Kerala, rather it's between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. This proposed project, it's a dam project essentially along with a hydropower plant. It is coming up on the Kaveri river, on one of the tributaries of the Kaveri, where the tributary merges with the Kaveri river. So let's understand the course of the Kaveri river, some details about this project, and few important places and locations in this Kaveri drainage basin. See, the Kaveri river, as many of you know, it's a lifeline for Karnataka and as well as for Tamil Nadu. The drainage basin of Kaveri covers 3 states and 1 union territory. The drainage basin covers Karnataka, Kerala, and as well as Tamil Nadu. And it also covers the union territory of Puducherry. So 3 states and 1 union territory are drained by the Kaveri river basin. Of course, it has many tributaries, and there are several important projects, hydro projects and reservoir dams that have been built on the Kaveri and its tributaries. The river originates at Talakaveri in Madikeri in the Coorg district of Karnataka in the Brahmagiri hill ranges of the Western Ghats over here. This is where it originates. It flows down through Mysore, Mandya, Chamarajnagar, and to the south of Bengaluru, it crosses over the border into Tamil Nadu. So here it is joined by several tributaries flowing down from the Western Ghats and the Nilgiri ranges, and in Tamil Nadu it rapidly descends towards the pilgrimage towns of Tiruchirappalli and the temple town of Tanjavur. Here you can see, as the Kaveri is about to drain into Bay of Bengal, it breaks apart into around 36 channels after Tanjavur, and it drains into the Bay of Bengal. So this is the general course of this west flowing river. Now, this project which has been mentioned in the question, the Mekedatu project, it is a proposed dam that is coming up to the south of Bengaluru, the city of Bengaluru, around 90 kilometers to the south of Bengaluru. There is a point, there is a convergence point where one of the tributaries of the Kaveri, the Arkavati river, which originates near Nandi Hills to the north of Bengaluru, it flows in a south direction and turns eastwards to join the Kaveri. This is where the Mekedatu project has been proposed. Right before the Tamil Nadu border, the Mekedatu project has been proposed by the Karnataka government. The main purpose of the project is to provide drinking water for the city of Bengaluru and also to generate hydropower. But this proposed project has been strongly opposed by Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu has claimed that this project is going to violate the terms of the tribunal award that was given to settle the river dispute between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. So Tamil Nadu has even approached the Supreme Court over the Mekedatu project. So that is why the topic is very important. You should know that it's coming up at the confluence of the Kaveri and its tributary, that is the Arkavati river. This is where the project is coming up, at the confluence of Arkavati and Kaveri. The other major tributaries of the Kaveri include Harangi, Hemavati, Lakshman Tirtha, Amravati, Bhavani, Kabini, Noyal, Shimsha and Manimuttur. UPSC tends to ask such geography-based, map-based questions. So please make a note of these important locations, the course of the river, the tributaries and the other projects which you can see in the map as well. You can see the Krishnarajar Sagar Dam near Mandya, the KRS Dam, Harangi and Hemavati Reservoir. You can also see the Metto Reservoir in Tamil Nadu, the Lower Bhavani project also in Tamil Nadu. So these are the major reservoirs that have been built on the Kaveri and its tributaries. So now based on this, let's see what's the answer. The first statement is definitely incorrect. It's not a dispute between Karnataka and Kerala. It's a dispute between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. So that's why the first statement is wrong. The second statement says it's built on a west flowing tributary of the Kaveri. Second statement is also incorrect because the Arkavati, which is one of the tributaries of the Kaveri where the project is coming up, it flows in a south direction and then turns east to meet the Kaveri. It is not a west flowing tributary. So both are incorrect. Option D becomes the correct answer. Neither one nor two. So let's see how many of you got it right. 39% have said B and very few have said D is the right answer. So many of you have got it right. Many of you have got the wrong answer. See, this is where you need some more clarity with regard to such important locations and places. So neither one nor two. Both are incorrect statements and we just discussed why both are the wrong options. Now let's move on to the second question based on a topic from international relations. The G695 and the G219 highways, which are often in news, passes through which of the following given regions? Does it pass through Fergana Valley or Eastern China, Aksai Chin or Northeast India? The poll has been launched. Let's see how many of you can get the answer right. See, both the highways, they have been constantly mentioned in news over the last 1 year. The G219 and as well as the G695. So let me explain where exactly these highways are located, where exactly it passes through. These highways are very controversial as it passes through the Aksai Chin region, which is Indian territory that is occupied by China. That is why both the highways are in news. The G219 highway, this was built by China back in 1950s. You can see the highway passing through Xinjiang over here, cutting across Aksai Chin and entering Tibet. So back in 1954, when the border dispute was just starting out between India and China, China kept its eyes on Aksai Chin because of its strategic location. Aksai Chin is sandwiched between Xinjiang and Tibet, and as both were problematic regions for China, China wanted to ensure better connectivity so it can quickly move the troops around to have better control over Xinjiang and Tibet. So from a security point of view, China gave a lot of strategic importance to Aksai Chin and hence tried snatching it away from India. It disputed India's claims and went ahead to construct the G219 highway, which raised the tensions in Aksai Chin and even led to border clashes back in 1950s. It became one of the initial triggers which eventually led to the 1962 war between India and China. This highway, it stretches all the way from the Mongolian border of China over here. It crisscrosses across the Xinjiang province right next to Central Asia and then cuts across Aksai Chin, which is Indian territory, part of the Ladakh region. But China captured Aksai Chin during the 1962 war and is in illegal occupation of this territory. So from here the highway cuts across Tibet and almost reaches the Myanmar border, the Yunnan province of China. So it's one of the longest highways in the world. So G219 has been a source of controversy in the India-China relationship since the 1950s. Now recently, China has proposed a new highway, which is the G695. This is a proposed highway. It was proposed by China last year, and the construction has just begun. And China hopes to complete this by 2035. The G695 is another strategic highway that China is planning to build, which again passes through Aksai Chin. Is that clear? This would be the second highway that would cut across Aksai Chin, which is Indian territory. So that is why the topic received a lot of media coverage. India, of course, opposes these construction projects, and such projects of China could again become a source of dispute between the two countries. So that is why you should be familiar with this. And also, you can look at many other important locations in this map, which are equally important for the exams. You can look at Gilgit-Baltistan, which is under the illegal occupation of Pakistan as part of POK, Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. You can see the line of control over here, which marks the temporary de facto border between India and Pakistan. You can see the Siachen Glacier, and right to the north of Siachen, you can see the Shaksgam Valley over here. Shaksgam Valley is essentially Indian territory as part of Gilgit-Baltistan. But Pakistan, which has occupied all these territories, has given away the Shaksgam Valley to China. It has leased Shaksgam Valley to China back in 1963. China-Pakistan, they signed a boundary agreement through which Indian territory occupied by Pakistan was gifted away to China. So that is the Shaksgam Valley that you see here. You can also see few important locations along the line of actual control with China, which is the temporary de facto border that we have. And over here, where Gilgit-Baltistan meets Afghanistan, India was supposed to share this boundary with Afghanistan. We were supposed to have a short border with Afghanistan of around 96 kilometers. This would have connected us directly to the Wakhan corridor that you see over here. This narrow land corridor of Afghanistan, this is the Wakhan corridor. So via Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, we should have had access to the Wakhan corridor so that we would have directly connected with Afghanistan and even with Central Asia. But unfortunately, this connection does not exist on the ground, as Pakistan is in illegal occupation of these territories. Right? So since Gilgit-Baltistan has been occupied by Pakistan, we don't have this boundary with Afghanistan on the ground. But in official maps, we do claim to have this boundary, as India claims the whole region to be a part of the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. So these are some important places and locations you should be familiar with regard to this hotly disputed region that involves India, Pakistan and China. So now coming back to the question, the correct answer is option C, Aksai Chin. Right? So let's see how many of you got it right. 59%, very good. Most of them have got the right answer. Even the Fergana Valley, which has been mentioned in the question here, which is in Central Asia, is an important location. Now, why don't you take this as a small exercise? Find out where exactly Fergana Valley is located, which countries share Fergana Valley, and post the answer in the comments so you can help other students as well. Frequently, Fergana Valley is in the news, and it also marks a cultural link between India and Central Asia. Because Babur, right, the emperor, Mughal emperor, came down from Fergana Valley to India to establish the empire in India. So there is a historical link between India and Fergana Valley, which even today marks a cultural link between India and Central Asia. So please identify which countries are part of the Fergana Valley region in Central Asia and post that in the comments. Now, let's take up a related question. Question number 3. It's related to the same region. So let's look at the question. As you move along the line of actual control, that is LAC, which we just saw, which is the temporary border between India and China, you will come across the following places. Can you arrange them in a north-south direction? Quite often UPSC has asked such questions where you are asked to arrange few places in a certain direction, right? So it's always good to be familiar with such important places. These places given in the options, they have been in the news over the last 3 years because of the ongoing military standoff between India and China. since the Ladakh crisis began in 2020. All these places have been frequently reported in newspapers along with detailed maps. So a student who has paid attention would have basic awareness, a basic idea, a rough idea as to where exactly they are located. So based on that, you can arrange these places in a north to south direction. Alright? So let's see where exactly they are located. Now if you look at the map here, you can see Daulat Beg Oldie over here, or also called as DBO. This happens to be one of the northernmost points of the line of actual control. It's located in the Karakoram region, in the Karakoram ranges. To the north of Daulat Beg Oldie, you enter China's Xinjiang province. This here is Aksai Chin. So the northernmost point along the India-China border happens to be DBO, Daulat Beg Oldie. So this itself is a clue for you. If you can remember that Daulat Beg Oldie is right at the top, you can always place this at the first in the given options. Next, a little below Daulat Beg Oldie, you have the Galwan Valley, the Galwan River Valley, where the clashes took place in 2020. Right, during the standoff, there was a clash between Indian troops and the PLA, the Chinese PLA, and several soldiers were killed on both the sides. So this is where the incident occurred, near the Galwan River Valley. You can also see the Shok River that flows down from Siachen Glacier in the Leh region. Then you can see the Panong So Lake, the strategic and the panoramic Panong So Lake that stretches across from Ladakh into Tibet. Right, this is again another flashpoint where tensions escalated and a standoff occurred between Indian and Chinese troops. Below that you can see the Chushul sector and Chumar and also Demchok right below over here at the southern parts of the Ladakh region. Is that clear? You can also see hot springs over here right next to Galwan Valley. Then other important places include the Depsang Plain. The Depsang Plain is between Daulat Beg Oldie and Galwan Valley. So at some of these places, the standoff actually continues even today. In the last 3 years, India-China have held several levels of boundary talks between military commanders, and at some locations, the standoff has been resolved. Both sides have de-escalated and disengaged. For example, at Galwan Valley, at Hot Springs and Panong So Lake, the de-escalation has been achieved. But at few other places like Depsang Plains and also at Demchok, the standoff continues even today and both sides are still engaged in negotiations to de-escalate and disengage. So that is why all these places are very important, and having a rough idea as to where exactly they are located, in which order, can also be important. So now based on this, let's see if we can get the right answer. So what you can do is, if you know that Daulat Beg Oldie is at the north, at the northernmost point, you can automatically rule out option B and D. Right? You can eliminate the options. You can work smartly as well and try to eliminate the options. So now the question is it A or C? The next clue here is Demchok. Demchok is at the southernmost point of the Ladakh region. So 1 has to be at the beginning and 2 has to come at the end. That itself is a clue for you. So you can eliminate option A as well. Right? So if you go in the order, it's Daulat Beg Oldie in the north, then you have Galwan Valley, then Panong So Lake, and then Demchok. So option C would be the correct answer. Clear? So let's see how many of you got it right. Very good, 45%. Most of them have got the right answer. So essentially, one has to be familiar with such important places. When you're reading the newspapers, if you come across these locations, geographical locations, you need to make a note and try and identify them as to where exactly they are located on a map. That knowledge that you develop over a period of 1 year will always help you in answering such map-based questions. Now let's move on to question number 4. Which of the following places are located on the east coast of Sri Lanka? Is it Trincomalee, Sampur, Colombo? First, let's see if you can give me the answer. Then we can discuss. The poll is live. Take 5 more seconds. Give the answer. We'll end the poll and let's see how many of you can get it right. Which of these places are located on the east coast of Sri Lanka? Most of them are saying option B. That is 1 and 2. Very good. That indeed is the correct answer. Because Colombo is on the west coast of Sri Lanka, not on the east coast. Whereas Trincomalee and Sampur, they are definitely located on the east coast of Sri Lanka. So let's look at the map. Let me give you the context and help you identify other important locations as well. Because Sri Lanka can be a very important topic because of the economic crisis it has faced in the last couple of years and the number of Indian projects that have been taken up in the country, the topic can become actually very important. Now, if you look at the map here, you can see the Jaffna region, the Jaffna Peninsula, right? It's part of the northern province of Sri Lanka, where you can find Tamil minorities. Then you have the eastern province over here. This is the eastern province. Here as well you find Tamil minorities. Tamil minorities are mainly concentrated in the northern and eastern provinces of Sri Lanka. Then on the west coast, you can see the Colombo port, where China has made very big investments. China was the one which developed the modern facilities at Colombo port. And recently it has won a contract to develop the East Container Terminal at Colombo port. And specifically mentioning this project because East Container Terminal at Colombo was supposed to be developed by India and Japan as part of Asia-Africa Growth Corridor, which is a joint initiative of India-Japan. India and Japan were supposed to develop the East Container Terminal. But a couple of years ago, the Rajapaksa government, Gotabaya Rajapaksa was the president and his brother Mahinda Rajapaksa was the prime minister. Generally, the Rajapaksa brothers are seen as anti-India. They're seen to favor China. Right? We've seen this consistently in the last couple of decades. So this project was taken away by the Rajapaksa government. It was taken away from India and China, and it was from India and Japan, and it was handed over to a Chinese firm. Is that clear? But later, when Sri Lanka fell into this economic crisis and sought help and assistance from India, then in order to please India, Sri Lanka awarded the West Container Terminal project to India's Adani Group. Adani Ports won the contract to develop West Container Terminal port opposite to the East Container Terminal. So what this shows is the intense competition, the strategic competition between India and China to invest in Sri Lanka and develop these key strategic projects. Trincomalee is another such location on the east coast of Sri Lanka. Trincomalee is one of the major ports in the region. It's a deep sea port, right? India does play a role in the development and the operations of these ports. All right. So here, India has recently won a project to rebuild the oil tank farms at Trincomalee port. These are large oil storage facilities that were of British era, built during the World War period. So India recently has won a contract to rebuild the oil tank farms at Trincomalee to make Trincomalee an energy hub, energy transit hub for the Indian Ocean. Right next to Trincomalee in the eastern province, you can see Sampur. At Sampur, India has won a project to develop a thermal power plant. India's NTPC has won a contract to develop a thermal power plant at Sampur. So that's another important place. Then of course you have Hambantota and Matala to the south of Sri Lanka, which have been developed by China. Both these projects have failed economically. Hambantota Port and Matala Airport, both projects have failed to take off economically. They've incurred tremendous losses and it has pushed Sri Lanka into a debt burden. Many experts believe that these projects have been part of China's debt trap diplomacy. As Sri Lanka couldn't repay the loans, China has won a long-term contract to maintain Hambantota Port. It has gained a long-term lease, a 99-year lease to operate the Hambantota Port. So these Chinese investments, which push countries like Sri Lanka into a debt burden, and later you see that China takes over these commercial projects, and this has always been a concern for India, and it's often referred to as China's string of pearls strategy to encircle India and contain India through such strategic projects. These fears have often come true for India as well, because recently a Chinese spy vessel, the Yongwang 5, was allowed to dock at Hambantota and Colombo just a few months back. So even that makes the topic very important. Few years back, then Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, he had allowed Chinese nuclear submarines to dock at Colombo port. So India sees China's naval activities in the Indian Ocean as a strategic threat. So that is why you have to be familiar with all these major projects of India and China in the Indian Ocean. You can also look at the northern parts of Sri Lanka where India has executed many big projects. We have the Northern Housing Project through which India built around 50,000 houses for the Tamil minorities who were displaced by the ethnic war. India revived and rebuilt the Kanke Senturai port, which was also damaged by the civil war and the 2004 tsunami. India also rebuilt the northern railway track and the Palale civilian airport. These are major projects of India in the northern peninsula, in the northern province, right towards Jaffna, where you find the Tamil minorities. These key connectivity projects, they were all damaged during the civil war and also during the Indian Ocean tsunami. So India has rebuilt all these critical projects in Sri Lanka. So that is why you have to be familiar with these important locations, where exactly they are located on the map, so you can answer any such questions. So the right answer was option B, Trincomalee and Sampur, 1 and 2 only. They are located on the east coast of Sri Lanka. Now moving on, let's look at the fifth question. Which of the following statements is or are correct? Kuril Islands is disputed between Japan and Russia. Kuril Islands are a chain of islands that stretch between the Japanese island of Hokkaido at their southern end and the Russian Kamchatka Peninsula at their northern end. The islands separate the Sea of Okhotsk from the Pacific Ocean. So 3 statements have been given. Let's see how many of you can get the right answer. I'll give you the discussion later. I'll show you the maps as well. But first, let's see how many of you are thorough with current affairs. Most of them are saying option D. All 3 are correct. Very good. All 3 statements given here are correct regarding the Kuril Islands. So let's examine this topic in detail. The Kuril Islands that you see here in the map, these small chain of islands between Japan and Russia, these are the Kuril chain of islands. This has been a source of dispute between Russia and Japan since the Second World War. Historically, Japan had control over the Kuril Islands, but during the Second World War, the Soviet Union captured this stretch of the Kuril Islands. These islands were captured by the then Soviet Union, and even now it remains under Russian control. So Japan has always been claiming back these Kuril Islands, and you can see the border here that marks the boundary between Japan and Russia. Back in 1800s, this was where the boundary existed. Japan had control over these islands over here, but Soviet Union captured these islands and pushed the border further towards the Hokkaido island of Japan. This is the Hokkaido island of Japan, the northernmost island. So Japan lost control over the entire stretch of Kuril Islands, which today is under Russian control. So since the last 70 odd years, it has been a source of dispute between the two countries. Recently, the issue has flared up after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. As Japan also joined Western countries in imposing sanctions against Russia, Russia has tried retaliating against Japan by putting pressure over the Kuril Island dispute. Now, as you can see in the map, the Kuril Islands, they do separate the Sea of Okhotsk over here from the Pacific Ocean. Alright? And it is located between Hokkaido at the southern end, and at the north, you have the Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia. So that is why all 3 given statements were correct. Now, if you observe the map, there are few more important locations here. You have the Sakhalin Peninsula over here of Russia. This is part of Russia's far east, part of the Siberian region of Russia. Now, why is this important? It's important because India's OVL or ONGC Videsh Limited has major investments in the Sakhalin gas reserves. We have made hydrocarbon investments through OVL or ONGC Videsh Limited, and India has been extracting gas reserves in a joint collaboration with Russia. Plus, India has participated in the Eastern Economic Forum. If you remember, we covered this topic under international relations just last week. India has made investments in the Russian Far East in several projects, including coal mines and other key projects across the Far East region. So that is why Sakhalin Peninsula is important from a mapping point of view. You can see the Sea of Japan here, separating Japan from China and the Korean Peninsula, right? Now let's look at some detailed map over here of the same region. There are few more locations I would like to highlight. See, you can observe the major islands of Japan. Japan is an island nation made up of different groups of islands. The northernmost group of islands happens to be the Hokkaido. This one over here. Hokkaido is separated from Honshu, which is the largest island of Japan, by the Tsugaru Straits over here. This is the Tsugaru Straits separating Hokkaido, the northern island, with Honshu, the largest island. Then you have Shikoku, a very small island over here, Kyushu and Okinawa, small group of islands in the Pacific. So these chain of islands make up Japan. Got it? Then if you observe here, you have the Korea Strait over here separating Japan from South Korea. It separates Japan from the Korean Peninsula. You can see the East China Sea right below over here, where China and Japan actually have a dispute over Senkaku Diaoyu Islands. The Senkaku Diaoyu Islands in East China Sea. They are disputed between China and Japan. And it's also good to be familiar with important Japanese cities because they are quite often in news. You have places like Hiroshima, where the nuclear bombs were dropped during the Second World War. There are many other important cities where a lot of conventions have taken place, important treaties and agreements have been signed. For example, Nagoya, where the Nagoya Protocol was signed related to Convention on Biological Diversity. You can also see Kyoto, where the Kyoto Protocol was signed under Climate Change Convention back in 1997. You can see Yokohama right below Tokyo over here. At Yokohama in 1990s, a UN convention was adopted regarding disaster management. It streamlined disaster management. Then you have Sendai over here, where the Sendai framework on disaster risk reduction was signed. It was a follow-up to the Yokohama strategy and Hyogo framework. So all these are important locations. And you can even see Fukushima over here, where the nuclear disaster happened in 2011 following a earthquake and a tsunami, right? So all these locations are very important given the fact that India, Japan actually have very, very close relations. Japan is a strategic partner for India. So as a result, the topic becomes very important. The Kuril Island dispute has made a lot of news. India-Russia oil trade has been making a lot of news. So all these places and locations I marked, they can be very, very important. So essentially, through one question, we are covering many different places, right? That is the strategy here, to cover many different locations which are in news. So all three statements are correct. D is indeed the correct answer. Next, question number 6. Which of the following countries constitute the Baltic states? Is it Romania, Serbia, Moldova, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Norway, Sweden, Finland, or none of the above? Let's see how many of you can get it right. Let's end the poll. Let's see how many of you have got the right answer. Most of them are saying B. Very good. The Baltic region has also been in the news constantly over the last 1.5 years. The term Baltic states or Baltic countries refers to Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. Alright, please look at the map here. You're looking at the Baltic region. This is Russia over here. And right next to Russia, you have these former Soviet states or former Soviet republics. That is Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. These are the Baltic countries, the Baltic states, because they are located right next to the Baltic Sea. They are in the Baltic region. That's why they are called Baltic countries. So as Russia went to war with Ukraine, Eastern Europe has gained a lot of prominence in geopolitics. This region has been constantly in the news, including the Baltic Sea. In the Baltic Sea, there is a very important project, the Nord Stream pipeline project, which was right at the center of controversy between Russia and the Western countries. Right? It was one of the triggers as well, which eventually led to escalation of tensions between Russia and the West, and it did have a role to play in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The Nord Stream pipelines, Nord Stream 1 and 2, these are underwater pipelines. They pass below the sea. They are laid on the seabed of Baltic Sea, connecting Russia with Germany. Is that clear? It connects Russia with Germany, transporting Russian gas to Germany. and it's further redistributed to many other European countries as well. Germany especially had a critical dependency on Russian gas during the winter season in particular. So Nord Stream 1 was a project that was started back in 2011. It was completed as well. And Nord Stream 2 was almost nearing completion when the Russia-Ukraine war began. So as the war broke out, Germany quit the project. As Western countries hit Russia with sanctions, Germany quit this key project which had been opposed by the US from a very, very long time. As Germany and West European countries were dependent on Russian oil and gas, US was constantly opposing this for many years as Russia would gain leverage over European countries. Is that clear? So this was right at the center of the geopolitical tensions between Russia and the West. So that's why the Baltic Sea, the Nord Stream pipelines are very important. Also, during the course of the war last year, there were multiple underwater explosions that were detected through which the Nord Stream pipelines have been sabotaged. It's been alleged that through a covert operation, either Russia or some Western country has destroyed the Nord Stream pipeline in order to exert geopolitical pressure. Both sides have blamed each other for this attack, this underwater attack. These explosions were reported at the Bornholm Island over here, which belongs to Denmark. So the Bornholm Island is another important place which has been repeatedly covered in newspapers. Bornholm Island is where the explosions were detected, the gas leak was detected. It belongs to Denmark. In fact, there is a disease as well, a viral disease called Bornholm disease, which initially broke out here. So Bornholm Island can be very important, so please mark the location. Then other than this, you have another set of pipelines coming from Russia towards Europe called the Druzhba pipeline. The Druzhba is another set of pipeline passing through land. If Nord Stream pipelines pass underwater through the Baltic Sea, the Druzhba pipeline, which has also been in the news, brings Russian oil and gas to European countries across the territorial region, the territorial landmass. Via Eastern Europe and Central Europe, Druzhba pipeline distributes oil and gas to several European countries here. Poland, Hungary, Romania, they're all dependent on Russian oil and gas. So these are some important locations and projects that you should know. Then also mark the location of Kaliningrad over here. This is a Russian exclave located in Eastern Europe. It's a Russian territory surrounded by Poland and Lithuania, and it faces the Baltic Sea. In fact, Russia has a strategic port and a naval base at Kaliningrad, which is an ice-free port for Russia, so that Russia can easily access the Baltic Sea and further reach into the Atlantic. So that is why all these locations are very, very crucial. Also take a note of the neighboring countries of Russia and Ukraine, right? So that is something you should be familiar with. So based on this, such straightforward, simple questions can come, and trust me, you can actually get these answers right. Again, it requires a little bit of common sense. Norway, Sweden, Finland can be eliminated. They are not called the Baltic states. They are often referred to as the Scandinavian countries or the Nordic countries. Romania, Serbia, Moldova, they are from the Balkan region, from the Balkan mountains in Southeast Europe, right? So based on common sense as well, you can eliminate the options and still get the right answer. So B is indeed the correct answer. So let's look at the seventh question now. Seventh question also focuses on Europe, specifically Eastern Europe and Black Sea. Which amongst the following are located along the rim of the Black Sea? There are 4 places given here. 4 names have been given. You need to check which of them are located along the rim of the Black Sea. See, the Black Sea has gained a lot of importance since the Russia-Ukraine war began. In fact, even before that, in 2014, when Russia invaded Crimea and captured the Crimean Peninsula that you see over here, since then, the Black Sea has become a flashpoint between Russia and Ukraine. Both countries have a critical dependency on the Black Sea to reach and access the Mediterranean Sea. It's crucial for their trade and as well as for Russia to deploy its naval forces towards the Mediterranean. Because Russia counters the NATO military deployment. Russia has active military deployment in the Levant, especially in Syria, where it's fighting a conflict, supporting its allies. So Black Sea holds a lot of strategic and economic significance, and you should be familiar with the key locations present along the rim of the Black Sea. These are the littoral places present towards the coast of the Black Sea. So the Black Sea here is separated from the Mediterranean by the Aegean Sea and the Sea of Marmara. Okay, that itself is one important point. Now, if you observe, there are some important locations like Odessa, which is a important port of Ukraine, which was constantly in the news over the last 1 year. You can see Sochi over here, which belongs to Russia, which is a resort town. It's a holiday destination. A lot of important summits, conferences have taken place at Sochi. You can also see Sevastopol over here, a major port and naval base located on the Crimean Peninsula. It was captured by Russia in 2014 from Ukraine. So now Russia has a major naval base at Sevastopol. You can also see Kerch. This is Kerch over here. This is the Kerch Strait as well. The Kerch Strait, which separates the Sea of Azov from the Black Sea. Please note down the point. Sea of Azov over here is separated from the Black Sea through the Kerch Strait. The Kerch Strait was in news because a vital bridge built by Russia connecting Russian mainland with Crimean Peninsula was blown apart by Ukraine. Reportedly, Ukraine carried out a drone attack, destroying the Kerch Bridge, part of the Kerch Bridge, which caused a huge strategic loss for Russia as it limits Russian access to the Crimean Peninsula. Sevastopol port has been constantly in news, Russia has been running its naval operations from here. Sochi also is constantly in news, and the Odessa port was in news because of the Black Sea Grain Initiative. The Black Sea Grain Initiative is another important topic because as the war began, the shipment of agricultural commodities was hit from Russia and Ukraine. I hope you know that both Russia and Ukraine are major producers of essential food grains like wheat, barley, sunflower oil, sunflower seeds, soybean, etc. So these essential food supplies were hit when the war broke out, as Russia almost imposed a blockade, a naval blockade for Ukraine in the Black Sea. So this led to shortage of essential food commodities. It led to increase in food prices and inflation, and affected food security in many countries around the world, especially in many poor African countries. So to address the food crisis and to ensure the war does not create more hunger in the world, the United Nations stepped in along with Turkey, and they mediated with Ukraine and Russia, and they struck a deal called the Black Sea Grain Initiative. The Black Sea Grain Initiative was worked out to allow the shipments to pass through, the food shipments from Ukraine to pass via Black Sea into the Bosphorus Strait that you can see over here. Turkey took ownership to facilitate this passage. Russia committed not to disrupt the food shipments, and through Ukrainian ports the food shipments were safely brought out of the Black Sea into the Bosphorus Strait and further into the Mediterranean. So this shipping arrangement was facilitated by the UN and by Turkey through the Black Sea Grain Initiative. So please note down the important Ukrainian ports from where the food shipments have been sent under the Black Sea Grain Initiative. Even that is very important. You can see those ports here in the map. This is Odessa port of Ukraine, the Kornomorsk port, again belonging to Ukraine, and the Yuzhny or Pivdeny port of Ukraine. From these three port facilities, food shipments were sent to an assembly point in Black Sea, from where the ships would be safely escorted out towards the Bosphorus Strait. Is that clear? So Turkey was managing this entire arrangement by setting up a coordination center at Istanbul that's located right over here. The coordination center that was jointly managed by UN and Turkey was run from Istanbul, and the shipments were brought from Black Sea towards Bosphorus Strait, which separates the Black Sea from Sea of Marmara. It's a very vital strait that connects Asia with Europe. Is that clear? It's located at the junction of Asia and Europe. Then Sea of Marmara is separated from the Aegean Sea by the Dardanelles Strait over here. These two straits together are called the Turkish Straits. They are referred to as the Turkish Straits. This was also important for your exams. The Turkish Straits are Bosphorus and Dardanelles. So operating the Turkish Straits, controlling the movement of ships here, is the responsibility of Turkey according to the Montreux Agreement and the Montreux Accord. The Montreux Accord was signed many decades ago by several countries that have interest in the Black Sea. And since these two straits control access to Black Sea, Turkey was given the responsibility to manage the shipping through Dardanelles and Bosphorus Strait. So that is why Turkey had to be a part of Black Sea Grain Initiative. Is that clear? So all these locations that I have marked are very important. Also note down the rim countries, the littoral countries of the Black Sea. Which countries border the Black Sea? This can also be a question. So the countries that share the border are Turkey, Bulgaria over here, then Ukraine of course, Russia and Georgia. These are the littoral countries of the Black Sea. Understood? So now come back to the question. It's fairly simple. All the four given options, they're all present along the rim or the littoral region of Black Sea. So 1, 2, 3, 4, option D becomes the correct answer. Again, most of them have got the answer right. Very good. Moving on to question number 8. We'll come back to India right now. Which of the following statements is or are correct? This question is related to India's exclusive economic zone. India's EEZ in the Bay of Bengal stretches continuously from the mainland of India to the Andaman Nicobar Islands. Is the statement correct or wrong? Does India's EEZ extend continuously from the mainland until the Andaman Nicobar Islands? So you need to check whether it's correct or wrong. Next, India's EEZ in the Bay of Bengal is bordered by the EEZ of Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Myanmar only. These are the only three countries, according to the statement, that share their EEZ with India. Right? Our EEZ borders their EEZ. So let's see which of the given statements are correct and which of them are incorrect. Now please focus on the map here. It actually gives you a very good idea about India's exclusive economic zone. India is blessed with a very large EEZ because we have a very long coastline. Right? India's coastline is more than 7,500 kilometers. And we have two island territories, Lakshadweep and Andaman Nicobar Islands. So India's EEZ has been drawn up according to the provisions of UN clause, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. We have also worked out maritime boundary agreements with all our neighbors to permanently settle the maritime boundaries and the jurisdiction of the EEZ. So in the Arabian Sea, India's EEZ borders Pakistan's EEZ. It also borders the EEZ of Maldives and Sri Lanka. Please note down this point. Towards the south here, towards the Indian Ocean, India's EEZ borders the EEZ of Maldives and Sri Lanka. Then coming to Bay of Bengal, please look carefully. India's EEZ is not continuous until Andaman Nicobar Islands. The EEZ of the mainland ends over here. This is the EEZ awarded to India. Is that clear? This is the high seas. This is the region beyond our national jurisdiction. Then Andaman Nicobar Islands, which are located quite far away from India towards Southeast Asia, gets its own separate EEZ. So our EEZ in Bay of Bengal is not continuous from the mainland till the Andaman Nicobar Islands. It actually breaks in between as per the provisions of UN clause, and Andaman Nicobar gets its own separate exclusive economic zone. So India's EEZ is divided. There is one EEZ covering the whole mainland of India, the whole coastline of India, along with the Lakshadweep Islands. They're all part of one EEZ. There's a separate EEZ around Andaman Nicobar Islands. And this borders the EEZ of Bangladesh, Myanmar, previously known as Burma, Thailand and Indonesia. Our EEZ borders the EEZ of Indonesia and Thailand as well, along with Bangladesh and Myanmar. So these are some basic facts you have to be aware of in order to answer such questions. Because the topic of exclusive economic zone is constantly in the news. UN Convention on Law of the Sea is constantly in news. Also, India's ties with some of these countries like Indonesia, Thailand, Myanmar, Sri Lanka. It's very important as part of international relations. So, based on what we understood, we can say that both the given statements are incorrect. Right? As I told you, India's EEZ does not stretch continuously. It is actually broken into two parts. And the EEZ is bordered not just by Sri Lanka, Myanmar and Bangladesh. It also borders the EEZ of Thailand and Indonesia. So that is what makes the second statement also incorrect. So right answer is D, neither 1 nor 2. Very good. Most of you seem to have got the right answer. Next, question number 9. It's a match the following type of question. Which of the pairs are correctly matched? We have a set of regions which were in news on the left matched with a set of countries. So you need to see whether they are correctly matched or not. The Tigray region matched with Nigeria. Abyei region matched with Yemen. Gaziantep matched with Turkey. First, let me give you the option. Let me give you the choice to answer the question. So let's see how many of you can get it right. These are the three regions matched with countries. Which of them are correctly matched? Okay, let's end the poll. Most of them have said option C. Very good. 3 only. This is the only correct pair. Gaziantep with Turkey is the only correct pair. The other two are incorrect. Got it? See, UPSC has asked a lot of questions based on important places from Africa, West Asia, etc. So that is why I'm picking these locations which were in current affairs. So let me explain one by one why these places were in news and where exactly they are located. First, the Tigray region. The Tigray region is located over here in Africa. It is sandwiched between Eritrea and Ethiopia. It's part of Ethiopia, the Tigray region. It's part of Ethiopia. This is where Ethiopia was witnessing a conflict since the last few years. The Tigray people, the native people of this region, the Tigray people, they had a long-standing issue with Eritrea, the neighboring country, and they later developed an issue with the Ethiopian government itself, their own government. And they launched a separatist war. It was a separatist civil war that was launched in Tigray region, which went on for several months, that destabilized Ethiopia completely. Is that clear? And the topic, why it is important, is because just last year the conflict has been resolved. The Ethiopian government signed an agreement with the Tigray groups, the outfits representing the Tigray people, to bring this conflict, the Tigray conflict, to an end. India also has stakes and interests over here. We have a lot of Indians in Ethiopia. A lot of Indian companies operate over here. It borders Sudan, Djibouti, Somalia, all of which are strategically very important, given that this region extends into the Horn of Africa region. Right? You all know about the Sudan crisis. You all know about Djibouti as well, I hope. Djibouti is a very important country here, as it sits right across the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. This is Bab el-Mandeb Strait, this narrow opening that connects the Red Sea with the Gulf of Aden. It's a vital shipping lane connecting Europe with Indian Ocean. Right? It's crucial for all the countries here. And the region here, next to Somalia, in the Gulf of Aden, it's affected by piracy. So a lot of countries have deployed their navies here. In fact, many big powers have their military bases in Djibouti to stabilize the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So Ethiopia is located in such an important region. We do have a lot of investments. We have quite good relations with Ethiopia as well. It's one of the largest countries and economies of Africa. So that's why you should be familiar with the Tigray conflict, where exactly the Tigray region is located. It's located in Ethiopia. All right? It was a point of conflict between the people of Tigray and Eritrea, and also with the Ethiopian government, and last year it has been resolved by signing a peace agreement. Next, the Abyei region, which is the second statement which has been given. This region is located along the borders of Sudan and South Sudan. I hope you know that South Sudan is the youngest country in the world, which broke away from Sudan in 2011. Since then, there has been a conflict going on between Sudan and South Sudan, especially in this region, the Abyei region, which is a special administrative region. So there is a long-standing conflict which has been going on here, And the reason why it was in news is because India recently deployed an all-women contingent as part of UN peacekeeping forces. The Indian Army deployed a contingent of troops comprising entirely of women soldiers as part of the UN peacekeeping mission. They have been deployed in the Abia region over here. Is that clear? So that is why the region was in news. And of course, Sudan itself has descended into a civil war recently. That's also one more reason why these places in Sudan can become important. You can see Khartoum here, the capital. Alright, later I have taken one more question to help you understand other important locations in Sudan as well. We'll get to that. Next, Gaziantep. Why was Gaziantep in news? Gaziantep was in news because this is where the devastating earthquake occurred, which hit Turkey and Syria. Just a few months back, Turkey and Syria were devastated by a massive earthquake that was reported over here in Gaziantep. So Gaziantep is in Turkey. Is that clear? The earthquake occurred at the junction where there are multiple tectonic plates that meet. You have the African plate colliding with the Anatolian plate and the Arabian plate over here. It's at this tri-junction where the tectonic activity led to a massive earthquake at Gaziantep. It caused large-scale devastation in Turkey as well and also across the border in Syria. A lot of Syrian refugees who are sheltered in Gaziantep, they have been badly hit. India reached out to both the countries and we gave disaster management assistance through Operation Dost. Operation Dost was the disaster management mission launched by India. Indian Air Force reached out through its special aircrafts like C-130J and C-17 Globemaster, and we provided a lot of relief material. We deployed medical teams on the ground to provide medical assistance. We gave essential supplies along with financial support as well. And all of this was done under Operation Dost. Right? So that is why the place becomes very important. You should know where Gaziantep is located. So now, coming back to the question, 1 and 2 are incorrectly matched. Tigray was in Ethiopia. Abyei region is along the borders of Sudan and South Sudan. So both are incorrect. Gaziantep is correctly matched. So C, 3 only, is of course the correct answer. Next, question number 10. Under Operation Kaveri, Indian nationals from Sudan were evacuated via which of the following ports? Recently, just a few weeks back, Sudan descended into a civil war and around 4,000 Indians were trapped. So India launched an evacuation mission to bring them back, that is Operation Kaveri, and we have managed to rescue all of them safely by working out a very complex evacuation mission. So if you have been following newspapers, you will know from which ports exactly the evacuation happened. Is it through Port Said and Haifa port, Port Sudan and the Dukum port, Port Sudan and Jeddah port, Port Sudan and Port Said? What's the right answer? Most of them have said option C. Very good. Operation Kaveri was executed mainly via Port Sudan and Jeddah port. Let's look at the map. Let's understand the important locations of these ports. Let's also talk about Port Said, Dukum port and Haifa port. All the ports I have mentioned here in the options, all of them are important. They were in the news over the last 1 year. See, as Sudan descended into civil war, the only option for India was to pull out Indian nationals to Port Sudan, located over here, that opens towards the Red Sea. This is the Red Sea. From here, India's plan was to bring the citizens to Jeddah port, which is located in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a very close friend of India. We have very good ties with Saudi Arabia, even with UAE, with United Arab Emirates. We actually worked with these two countries, these two West Asian powers, to ensure that we had the right access to these important ports so we can pull out our citizens from Sudan. Both Saudi Arabia and UAE, they exercised a lot of influence on Sudan. So we relied on these friendly countries to help us out, to arrange the logistics needed to bring all Indians from different parts of Sudan and to assemble them at Port Sudan. From here, they were evacuated to Jeddah port, and from Jeddah port, they have been brought to India. Alright, but the interesting fact is that when the crisis happened, fortunately for India, there was already one Indian naval ship right next to Port Sudan. An Indian naval ship was docked at Port Said over here in the Suez Canal, which belongs to Egypt. INS Sumeda, an Indian naval ship, was participating in a military exercise with Egypt. It was deployed in the Suez Canal and it was docked at Port Said when the crisis happened. So it was easy for India to divert INS Sumeda towards Port Sudan from Port Said. Alright. Next, another naval ship of India had been docked at the Duqm port of Oman, located over here in the Arabian Sea. Duqm port is another strategic port. Recently, Oman has given access to the Indian Navy to take logistical support at Duqm port. India and Oman have signed a bilateral agreement through which Indian Navy has access to the Duqm port of Oman for refueling and resupplies. So on a regular mission, INS Teg had already been deployed here. So when the crisis happened in Sudan, immediately INS Teg was dispatched from the Duqm port via Gulf of Aden and Bab el-Mandeb Strait, and it passed through Red Sea to reach Jeddah and Port Sudan. So from here they were evacuated through the naval ships, and even of course the large transport aircrafts were deployed at the Jeddah airport. C-130, C-17 aircrafts, they brought back the Indians from Jeddah to India. Clear? So that is why all these port locations are important. Now, why is Haifa port in news? Why is it important and where is it located? Haifa port is very important because it's a strategic port, and India's Adani group has recently won the contract to develop the Haifa port. Does anyone know where is Haifa port located, in which country, and which sea does it face? Very good. It faces the Mediterranean Sea and it's located in Israel over here. This is Israel here, right? This is the Mediterranean Sea and this is where the Haifa port is located. Haifa itself is a historic city with a lot of connections to India. During the World War, Indian soldiers fought to liberate Haifa. Indian soldiers from Mysore, Hyderabad and Jodhpur, they fought a legendary battle, the Battle of Haifa, to defeat the Axis powers on behalf of British India and liberated Haifa. So Haifa marks a close cultural link even today between India and Israel. Is that clear? In Delhi, you might have heard about the Teen Murti Chowk and the Teen Murti Bhavan, right? That marks a tribute to the Indian soldiers who fought the Haifa battle. Even in Haifa, there are memorials paying tribute to the Indian soldiers who fought this battle to liberate Haifa. So that is why Haifa port is also very, very important. So coming back to the question, option C is correct, Port Sudan and Jeddah port. Next, question number 11. Which of the following pairs are incorrectly matched? It's another match the following question, but which of them are incorrectly matched? We have a set of new elephant reserves on the left matched with corresponding states. You need to see whether the match is correct or wrong. See, India recently notified 3 elephant reserves. We had 30 elephant reserves before. Now the number has hit 33. Last year, the government of India has notified 3 important elephant reserves in the country. That is the Terai Elephant Reserve, Agastya Malai Elephant Reserve and Lemru Elephant Reserve. Now you need to check whether the match is correct or wrong. Terai is matched with UP, Agastya Malai with Kerala, Lemru with Manipur. So go ahead and give the answer. In the meanwhile, I'll show you the map and I'll explain where these elephant reserves are located. So as I told you, we have around 33 elephant reserves today in the country. And this map helps you understand where they are located. So Terai Elephant Reserve, the new elephant reserve which was notified, the latest one, it is indeed located in Uttar Pradesh. It's close to the Dudhwa region, Dudhwa Filbit region. It's a very important habitat. And the name Terai, the Terai region or Terai belt, it refers to the plains of Nepal that extends into India towards UP and Bihar. That is the Terai region, the Terai belt. So that itself is a clue. The Terai Elephant Reserve is in UP, in Uttar Pradesh. Next, Agastya Malai. Where is the Agastya Malai Biosphere Reserve located? Many of you would know the Biosphere Reserve. It's in Tamil Nadu. So, an elephant reserve has been notified here at Agastya Malai. It's in Tamil Nadu. Next, Lemru Elephant Reserve. It's in Chhattisgarh. not in Manipur. So this is where India has established 3 new elephant reserves. Terai in UP, Lemru in Chhattisgarh and Agastya Malai in Tamil Nadu. Also take a look at other important elephant reserves which have been listed in the map here. Make a note of them. They're all very, very important locations. Make a note of Dandeli Elephant Reserve, then Wayanad Elephant Reserve in Kerala. Dandeli of course is in Karnataka. Then the Periyar Elephant Reserve, Annamalai Elephant Reserve in Tamil Nadu, Nilgiri Elephant Reserve again in Tamil Nadu. Then other important ones would be Mayurbhanj in Odisha. Then coming to Northeast India, Kaziranga is a major elephant reserve. The Garo Hill Elephant Reserve in Meghalaya, right? So these are some very, very important elephant reserves in the country. So just be familiar with the states that they are located in, right? So coming back to the question, Terai with UP is a correct match. Agastya Malai wrongly matched with Kerala, it's Tamil Nadu. Lemru also wrongly matched with Manipur, it was supposed to be Chhattisgarh. So that is why 2 and 3 are incorrect. So what's the question asking? It's asking you to identify incorrect pairs. So 2 and 3 becomes the answer, that's option C. Let's see how many of you got the right answer. This is a topic from environment and ecology. Good, most of them have got the right answer. Now let's look at question number 12. China and Philippines are party to which of the following disputes in South China Sea? South China Sea conflict is frequently in news, right? So China has picked up maritime disputes with multiple countries in South China Sea and Philippines is one amongst them. These 2 countries have few important disputes, so you need to check whether these are those disputes. Paracel Island dispute, Scarborough Shoal dispute, Spratly Island dispute. Go ahead, give the answer. In the meanwhile, I'll show you the map and help you understand some important locations in the South China Sea. The South China Sea holds a great deal of strategic significance. It's a vital link that connects Indian Ocean with the Pacific Ocean. It's crucial for global shipping. It's blessed with resources including hydrocarbons, fisheries and precious minerals, etc. So China, which has kept its eyes on the resources of South China Sea and its strategic significance, has tried to claim and capture almost the entire South China Sea to itself. Here China has violated the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. It's broken the international rules and picked multiple maritime disputes with various Southeast Asian countries. The disputes are mainly centered around the Paracel group of islands with Vietnam. This is a dispute between China, Taiwan and Vietnam. Is that clear? Next you have the Spratly group of islands, disputed between China and multiple countries. Spratly dispute includes Philippines, Brunei, Vietnam, Malaysia, China and Taiwan. So Spratly dispute involves almost all the countries in the region: Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, then Vietnam and China. So all these countries are party to the Spratly Island dispute. Other than that, China has picked a dispute with Indonesia at Natuna Island. That's located somewhere over here approximately. This is the Natuna Island dispute between China and Indonesia. Then you can see the Scarborough Shoal over here, along with the Mischief Reef. Both are frequently in news. These are disputes between China and Philippines. Scarborough Shoal and Mischief Reef and few other places here, they are disputed between China and Philippines. So earlier we saw the Senkaku Diaoyu Island dispute between China and Japan, that is in East China Sea. These are the disputes in South China Sea. Alright, so please make a note of these islands and know as to which countries have claims over these islands and the EEZ around it. Now if you come back to the question, China and Philippines, they do have disputes at Scarborough Shoal and Spratly Islands. Paracel is not between China and Philippines. The Paracel dispute is between China and Vietnam. So that is why 1 has to be eliminated. So 2 and 3. Option C becomes your correct answer. Let's see how many of you got it right. Most of them have got the wrong answer. Majority have said D. They've said all 3 are correct. It's not. All three are not correct. Paracel Island dispute is only between China, Taiwan and Vietnam. Philippines is not party to it. China, Philippines, they are fighting a dispute over Scarborough Shoal, Mischief Reef and Spratly Islands. So that is the correct answer, 2 and 3. Next, question number 13, related to major rivers and dams in India. Which of the following pairs are correctly matched? On the left, we have a set of dams, major dams of India, matched with states. You need to see whether they are correct or wrong. Tungabhadra matched with Karnataka, Bhavani Sagar matched with Tamil Nadu, Koyna Dam matched with Maharashtra. The poll is live. Go ahead and give your answer. Let's see how many of you can get the right answer. Okay, let's end the poll. Most of them are saying option D. Almost 50% plus have said option D. Very good. All the three are correctly matched. So let me show you an important map. I'll give you a list as well over here. Please make a note of this. It is listing out the major dams of India, the states that they are located in, and the river against which these dams have been built. Very, very important facts. You have the Bhavani Sagar Dam in Tamil Nadu. I actually mentioned this in the first question. While talking about Mekedatu project and Kaveri river, we did mention the Bhavani reservoir. It's built on the Bhavani, which is a tributary of the Kaveri river. Alright? It's in the Kaveri basin. You can see here in the map. This is Bhavani Sagar. We also saw the KRS Dam in Karnataka near Mandya on the Kaveri river. This is Mettur, the Mettur reservoir in Tamil Nadu. All these are in the Kaveri basin. Then you have Lower Periyar in Kerala. You can see the Koyna Dam on the Koyna river in Maharashtra. Correct? You have that in the list as well. The Koyna Dam in Maharashtra, built across the Koyna river. Then you can see other major dams like Tungabhadra, which is in Karnataka, built on the Tungabhadra river, which goes on to meet. See, this is the Tungabhadra Dam on the Tungabhadra river. It goes on to meet the Krishna river and drains into the Krishna Godavari basin. Next, you have Sardar Sarovar project on the Narmada over here. The Indra Sagar project on the Tapi river. Nagarjun Sagar, the Nagarjun Sagar Dam, a major dam in Telangana across the Krishna river. Right? So all these are major projects. Please make a note. Look out for these locations. In which states are they located? And clearly mark them down because they are all very, very important for your prelims. There are many more. Of course, you have Bakra Nangal. Then across Mahanadi, you have the Hirakud in Odisha. Right? The Bakra Nangal, one of the major dams across Satluj, which powered our green revolution. The Tehri Dam, multi-purpose dam across Bhagirathi in Uttarakhand, in the Himalayan belt. So all these are major rivers and dams of India, and you should be familiar with these locations. Many of them were in the news because of floods, because of protests and controversies, sharing of these waters on environmental grounds. Many of these dam projects were in the news constantly. Alright, so please make a note of that. So in the question, all the three are correctly matched, so D becomes the correct answer. Right? Now, question number 14. Mangroves can be found at which of the following locations along India's east coast? Go ahead and take a look at the options given. Do you find mangrove forests at Pichavaram, in the KG Delta or Krishna Godavari Delta, Bhitarkanika, Sundarbans? So let's see how many of you can get this answer. In the meanwhile, I'll explain about the mangrove cover in India. The mangroves are crucial along the coastline. They play a very critical role in the coastal ecosystem. In the session on government schemes, we did speak about few special initiatives like Mishti that is focused on protecting the mangrove cover of India. Recently, during Climate Change Convention as well, a dedicated mangrove alliance has been launched. India is also part of it. That's because mangroves play a key role in enabling the coastal communities. They provide a source of livelihood, right? Plus, they act as a natural buffer against disasters like tsunamis, cyclones, coastal flooding, etc. So it's very important to protect the mangrove cover. It plays a key ecological role and also an important role in the economy and with regard to disaster management. So when you look at the coastline of India, mangroves can be found in the Kutch region of Gujarat, right, from Run of Kutch, where Gujarat meets with the Sindh province of Pakistan. Across this stretch in the Kutch region, you have few mangrove reserves, and also in the Kathiawar Peninsula, there are few spots where mangroves can be found, right, even across Diu Daman. Then near Mumbai and Ratnagiri in Maharashtra, in few stretches of Goa, especially along the Zuari river, and even the Mandovi river, where it drains into Arabian Sea, there are few stretches where mangroves can be found. In Karnataka as well, along the Udupi Mangalore belt, at places like Honavar and other places, you do find mangrove cover. Then Tuticorin in Tamil Nadu. But Pichavaram is one of the major mangrove sites of India. It's a very, very important mangrove site in Tamil Nadu, stretching till Puducherry as well. Even in Puducherry, the mangrove cover can be found. Then you have the Krishna Godavari Delta in Andhra Pradesh over here. And right next to it, you have the Bhitarkanika region. It's part of the Mahanadi Delta, right, across Chilka Lake, Bhitarkanika. These are sites where olive ridley turtles come up as well to lay the eggs. So Bhitarkanika is another major mangrove cover of India. And finally, the Sundarbans in West Bengal. Even Andaman Nicobar has mangrove cover at certain places and spots, right? So this is the rough distribution of India's mangrove forests. So now based on this, we can say that if you look at the east coast of India, we have mangroves present at Pichavaram in Tamil Nadu, Krishna Godavari Delta in Andhra Pradesh, Bhitarkanika in Odisha, Sundarbans in West Bengal. So all the four are correct. At all four locations, mangrove cover can be found along India's east coast. Next, question number 15. It's related to the El Nino La Nina phenomena, which has been making a lot of news in the last few weeks. I hope you know that El Nino La Nina, these phenomena, they have an impact on Indian monsoons and over the global weather system. It causes many adverse conditions in some parts of the world, and it creates favorable conditions in some parts of the world. Now the topic is very relevant for India, especially this year, because the last 3 years they were La Nina years. And La Nina is good for Indian monsoons. It's favorable for Indian monsoons. This unique condition which occurs in a particular part of the world, it is favorable for the Indian monsoon. It brings more rainfall. That's why we have received very decent rainfall in the last 3 years. But this year is widely predicted to be a El Nino year. And El Nino is bad news for India. El Nino adversely affects the Indian monsoons. It brings less rainfall to India. So that is why the topic is in news. Since El Nino has been predicted for this year monsoon, you should know about El Nino and La Nina, where exactly the phenomena occurs. So let's focus on the region. Let's focus on the region where these phenomena are reported. Is it reported in northeastern Indian Ocean, South China Sea and Hawaiian coast? Is it in this stretch? Or is it across east coast of Australia, equatorial Pacific, west coast of Peru? Or east coast of Australia, northern Pacific and west coast of North America? Entire coast of Australia, Southern Ocean and southeast of Indian Ocean? Go ahead and give me the answer. Let's see how many of you know this. In geography, you would have studied El Nino and La Nina. Even in the crash course, we had covered these topics under geography sessions. So let's see how many of you get the right answer. Most of them are saying option B. East coast of Australia, equatorial Pacific and west coast of Peru. Very good. That is the correct answer. See, El Nino, La Nina, these phenomena, which refers to abnormal heating and cooling of the waters, it is reported in this part of the Pacific. This region that I am highlighting here. It's reported over here. Between southeast, northeast of Australia, over here, in this stretch, starting from here till the west coast of Peru in Latin America, and it's mainly seen here in the equatorial Pacific, in the central equatorial Pacific. This is exactly where this abnormal heating and cooling of the waters is seen, which we refer to as La Nina, El Nino phenomena. This alters the oceanic current, the wind circulation, and has an impact on trade winds, directly affects the monsoon, right? So La Nina is favorable for the Indian monsoon, but El Nino has an adverse impact on the monsoon. So that is why option B is correct. This abnormal warming and cooling of the waters in the Pacific, it's seen between the east coast of Australia, specifically towards the northeast region of Australia, where you have the Great Barrier Reef as well, across central equatorial Pacific, going all the way till the west coast of Peru, that is in South America, right? So option B is the correct answer. Next, question number 16. Where are the Solomon Islands located? This is another important topic. Solomon Islands was in the news over the last few months. Is it located in the Caribbean, or in the Mediterranean, or in the Pacific, Oceania, or in the Indian Ocean? Let's see how many of you know the answer. Meanwhile, I'll explain why the topic is in news. Recently, China signed a security agreement with the Solomon Islands. It has signed a security agreement that allows China to deploy its navy near the Solomon Islands in its exclusive economic zone. China is also looking to build few important strategic projects in the Solomon Islands, including port facilities. So this has caused a lot of concern for Western countries which had influence near Solomon Islands. So that is why the topic is very important. It actually caused a lot of alarm amongst the Western countries. So where exactly is it located? It's located in the Pacific Oceania. Option C is the correct answer. Alright? Please look at the map over here. It is showing you the Indo-Pacific region, and you have to concentrate specifically on the Pacific Oceania region. That is this region. This is Pacific Oceania. Alright? You have small island countries, Pacific island countries such as Palau, Papua New Guinea also becomes part of it, which is right next to Indonesia. You have Micronesia and Marshall Islands over here. Nauru and Solomon Islands. This is where Solomon Islands is located. Alright. Then Vanuatu, Fiji, Samoa, Kiribati, the Cook Islands, which is a tax haven known for money laundering. Tonga, where a recent volcanic eruption had occurred. Right. And Niue. These are the major Pacific Island nations. They are part of a grouping called Pacific Islands Forum. And India actually works very closely with the Pacific Islands Forum. India also has good relations with these Pacific Island countries. We have held a summit with the Pacific Islands Forum. We have also given a lot of investments to these countries, and we actually have very close cultural ties with countries like Fiji. You have a very strong Indian community in Fiji because these were Indian laborers, indentured laborers who were taken by the British during the colonial period, right? So subsequent generations, they have stayed over here in Fiji, and they make a very strong connect with India, a cultural connect with India. So all these island countries are very important because China has been paying a lot of attention to the Pacific Oceania. China has been very aggressive in the region. Last year, Chinese Foreign Minister visited all these countries, and he has proposed an alliance with these countries along with security agreements with each country. And the first security agreement was signed with the Solomon Islands, which has threatened Western influence in the region. Traditionally, countries like Australia, New Zealand, United States, and Japan, these were the dominant powers in the Pacific, all Western democracies. Now China is directly challenging them in the Pacific, and hence you should be familiar with these island countries because India also is in competition here. These countries are blessed with marine resources. We are working closely with these countries to build up our economic and cultural relations. So in that context, these Pacific Island nations are very important. So the correct answer is option C. Next, question number 17 related to Africa again. The Horn of Africa is composed of which countries? Does it include Somalia, Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia? Which of these countries are part of this region known as Horn of Africa? The poll is live. Take a few seconds, we'll end the poll very soon and let's see how many of you get the right answer. Okay, let's end the poll. Most of them are saying option D. Good, very good. All the four, Somalia, Djibouti, Eritrea, Ethiopia, they are part of Horn of Africa region. In fact, while talking about Sudan and Ethiopia, we did see the same region. We did take a look at this region. This is called the Horn of Africa. Is that clear? This whole region, the outline that I am drawing here, this represents the Horn of Africa. It's called the Horn of Africa because it resembles a horn, the horn of a rhinoceros especially. So the countries which are part of this region includes Eritrea, which we saw in the previous question, Ethiopia, Djibouti, that is located right next to Bab el-Mandeb Strait, where many countries have military bases present, and Somalia, which is hit by civil war. These are the Horn of Africa countries. This is a very, very important region as it borders Gulf of Aden and the Red Sea and the western part of the Indian Ocean. Somalia especially has gone through a lot of destabilization. Since almost 30 years, it's going through a civil war, and it's mainly controlled by a terrorist organization called the Al-Shabaab. This is where Al-Shabaab operates. It's a terrorist outfit which is aligned with Al-Qaeda's ideology. Is that clear? It is Al-Shabaab which supports the Somalian pirates to engage in piracy, to attack the ships, the commercial ships, in order to extract a ransom. This ransom is what funds the terror activities of the Al-Shabaab in Somalia. So the piracy in the region is of direct concern for India. India has a lot of trade passing through the region. The impact of piracy is felt as far away as Maldives and Lakshadweep of India as well. The whole region was declared as a sensitive region for shipping, and as a result, insurance cost went up. So if the insurance cost is higher, it increases the cost of transportation, right? And it has an impact on our imports and exports. And ships will start avoiding these waters, which could also affect trade for India. So that is why India has constantly worked with other countries to counter piracy in the region. Indian Navy is constantly deployed near Gulf of Aden and Horn of Africa to counter piracy in the region. The other important locations you can see here includes Socotra Island of Yemen. It's a strategic island present at the opening of Gulf of Aden because UAE has a military base at Socotra. UAE has a military presence to control the waters over here, to stabilize the shipping in the region. Then you can see Aden, the port city of Yemen. You can see Sana'a, the capital of Yemen, and Hodeidah, the strategic port of Yemen facing the Red Sea. All these are important locations because Yemen has been going through a civil war since 2014. And recently there has been a dramatic shift in West Asia because Saudi Arabia has re-established ties with Iran. Previously, the Yemen civil war was a direct result of the rivalry between Saudi Arabia and Iran. It was Iran which was sponsoring the Houthi rebels of Yemen to topple the Yemeni government, which was an ally of Saudi Arabia. It was part of their geopolitical rivalry. But now that they have re-established ties between them because of China's mediation, Iran, Saudi Arabia and other powers like Oman and even UAE, they are working towards resolving the civil war in Yemen. Is that clear? They are doing the same in Syria as well. Right? Syria has been recently readmitted into the Arab League. So both the civil wars in Syria and Yemen are being brought to an end with the involvement of all these regional rivals. So that is why these locations in Yemen can be very important. So Aden, Sana'a, Hodeidah port and Socotra. All these places in Yemen are also very, very important. Next, question number 18. Where in India can you find major concentration of coral reefs? This question has been picked because recently there was a report which pointed out the concern regarding India's coral reefs. Climate change, rising sea temperatures, increasing acidification of the oceans They are posing a direct threat to coral reefs around the world, especially in India. So there was a recent report that was brought out which gained a lot of attention that highlighted the concerns for the coral ecosystem in India. So you should know where coral reefs can be found in the Indian subcontinent. Can you find them at Andaman Nicobar, Lakshadweep, Gulf of Mannar, Gulf of Kutch and the Park Strait? So let's look at the map. Let's see what the data says. In India, we are blessed with a decent amount of coral reef systems. We don't have extensive coral reefs, but at least to whatever extent possible, there is a decent presence of coral reef structures along the coastline of India. In the Gulf of Kutch, there is a decent presence of coral structures. Along the Konkan coast, in the Malwa region, across Maharashtra, Goa, here as well, there is a limited presence of coral reefs. Lakshadweep Islands is known for its coral reefs. It's a very popular scuba diving and snorkeling spot. Gulf of Mannar and Park Strait between India and Sri Lanka. This is another major hotspot for coral reefs. I hope you know Gulf of Mannar is a biosphere reserve, right? It's because of the presence of coral reefs. It is housed to number of important species. It's known for its rich biodiversity. So this is another major hotspot. And of course Andaman Nicobar Islands. Even the Andaman Nicobar, it has very pristine waters with a healthy coral structure, right? And again, that's what makes Andaman very popular for tourists, for diving and snorkeling. Unfortunately, some of the corals were damaged during the 2004 tsunami. But now the bigger concern is pollution, then extensive shipping, right? Along with climate change, rising temperatures, acidification. These are the concerns for India's coral structures. So that is why the topic was in news. There was a recent study that was brought out highlighting the threat for coral systems across these regions. So the right answer is option D. In India, you can find coral reefs at all these locations which have been mentioned in the options. Next, question number 19. Which is the only part of United Kingdom that shares a land border with the European Union? It's based on another current affairs topic, which was in news in international relations. Which part of UK shares a land border with the EU? Is it England, Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland? Let's see how many of you get the answer right. I want you guys to answer first, then I'll explain. Okay, let's end the poll. Let's see how many of you get it right. Most of them have said option D. Very good. It is Northern Ireland that shares a land border between UK and the European Union. Let's look at the map. See, when I say United Kingdom or Britain, it refers to the sovereign government of UK, which rules over or which governs, administers 4 different territories. It is said that these are 4 countries which make up the sovereign state of the United Kingdom. These 4 regions include England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. This is Northern Ireland. These 4 regions, they make up the UK or Britain. Is that clear? Now to the right, you can see one large island. This is often referred to as Great Britain. Great Britain includes England, Scotland and Wales. These 3 collectively are often referred to as Great Britain. Now if you add Northern Ireland to this, then that becomes the UK or Britain. Is that clear? So essentially it's an island country. Now the UK was sharing a land boundary with the European Union over here. This is where the border exists between the United Kingdom and European Union, where Northern Ireland is separated from Republic of Ireland. This here is Republic of Ireland, which is a separate sovereign country, which is a member of the European Union. Whereas UK, as you know, quit the European Union following Brexit, the Brexit referendum, and hence this land border has again come up here between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. So to address the movement of people and goods between these borders, the UK-EU border from Northern Ireland to Republic of Ireland, a treaty was needed, an arrangement was needed. This had been worked out through the Northern Ireland Protocol that was signed a few years ago. A couple of years ago, the Northern Ireland Protocol had been signed to facilitate the free movement of people and goods from Northern Ireland to Republic of Ireland. Alright, this was a commitment that UK had made to the Irish people when Irish insurgency was brought to an end in 1998. By signing the Good Friday Agreement, the Irish insurgency had been brought to an end, and one commitment made by UK was that this border between UK and EU, that is between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland, will remain an open border, so that the Irish people can freely move around, the goods can freely move around, thus promoting development and growth for the Irish people. But now that UK quit Brexit, there was a fear, there was a concern that hard borders will come up again along Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. So to prevent a hard border from coming up again, Northern Ireland Protocol had been signed. But this agreement created many problems for the UK. Because of the nature of border checks that came up for checking goods that were headed from UK to Republic of Ireland, a check post came up here, and as a result the internal movement of goods within UK got affected. Now imagine if goods were sent from, let's say, Scotland or England or Wales towards Northern Ireland, even they were being checked. A security check would happen, then customs check would happen to place taxes and duties on it. So this was delaying the movement of goods within the country, within the UK. The check was supposed to be only for those goods headed towards Republic of Ireland, because this is EU territory. Only if goods were moving from UK to EU, only those goods had to be checked and taxes had to be imposed on them. But because of a flaw in Northern Ireland Protocol, the checking was happening here, where goods were moving from England, Scotland, Wales to Northern Ireland, and this was affecting the internal movement of goods within UK. This led to critical shortages of essential items, price increase and inflation. So to resolve this issue and facilitate the easy movement of goods within UK, Northern Ireland Protocol was recently replaced. It was replaced by the Windsor Framework or the Windsor Agreement. Now this creates a new arrangement for the movement of goods. This has created a new arrangement. Two separate channels have been created. A green channel for internal movement of goods within UK, goods going from England, Scotland, Wales to Northern Ireland. They will not undergo any checks, no security checks, no taxes will be imposed on it. This is internal movement within UK. Only those goods headed towards Republic of Ireland from the UK, only they will undergo a check. Alright? Because this is the movement of goods from UK to European Union territory. So that is why Windsor Framework was signed to replace Northern Ireland Protocol. This is a very important topic. It has implications for India as well, because we have very big trade and economic interests in this region. So it's very clear that UK's land border with EU is in Northern Ireland. Option D is the correct answer. Next, question number 20. Which of the following maritime choke points offers a passage for ships from Indian Ocean to the Pacific Ocean? When you are moving from Indian Ocean to Pacific Ocean, which are the choke points offering passage for ships? Is it Malacca Strait, Sunda Strait, Lombok Strait? Let's see how many of you know the answer. Please look at the map here. Indian Ocean and the Pacific. This here is the Pacific Ocean. There are three straits in Southeast Asia which offer that passage. All three are choke points, maritime choke points. First, we have the Malacca Strait over here between Singapore and Indonesia. It connects the Andaman Sea from Bay of Bengal towards the South China Sea. This is the most preferred shipping lane. Majority of the ships passing through from Indian Ocean to Pacific, they prefer the Malacca route. It's the easiest route, shortest route, and Singapore offers better infrastructure at the ports. So this is the most preferred shipping lane. So it's a vital maritime choke point. Then you have Sunda Strait over here between Sumatra. This is the Sumatran island of Indonesia and the Java island of Indonesia. So this is the Sunda Strait. And you have Lombok Strait between Bali. This is Bali here. This is the island of Bali. And this is Lombok. So between Bali and Lombok, you have the strait, the Lombok Strait, which also connects Indian Ocean with the Pacific. But these are longer routes, more difficult to navigate as well. So most ships, they prefer the Malacca Strait. But all three are important maritime choke points connecting Indian Ocean with the Pacific. So what's the correct answer? Option D. 1, 2 and 3. All three are correct. Most of them have got it right. Around 50%, 51% have got the right answer. Next question, question number 21. There is a description which has been given regarding a country in Southeast Asia. Now let's see how many of you get this answer right. First, I'll not explain. Let the poll go live. We'll end the poll in a few seconds and let's see how many of you can answer this question. It's a long, narrow nation shaped like the letter S. The map, if you look at the map of this country, it looks like the letter S. It's in Southeast Asia on the eastern edge of the peninsula known as Indochina. It shares northern borders with China and faces the South China Sea and the Gulf of Tonkin. Which country does the description refer to? Most of them are saying Vietnam. Very good. The correct answer is Vietnam. Please look at the map. Just observe the shape of this country. It's a very long, narrow country. It's a country that is stretched out. It looks elongated and roughly resembles the letter S, the alphabet S. Correct? Looks like the letter S. And it is present on the easternmost part of this region called Indochina. This whole region is called Indochina Peninsula. Also referred to as Mekong countries present in the Mekong Delta. The term Indochina is a colonial reference because this region of Southeast Asia, it's sandwiched between India and China. So it was the French and even the British who started calling this Indochina, as it was between India and China. This name has stuck from the colonial period. So it's called Indochina region or Indochina Peninsula. It's also called Mekong region, the Mekong Delta countries. The Mekong is a major river which flows down from China. It originates in China, flows down through Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam. For all these countries, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam, Mekong River is a lifeline. So they're also called Mekong countries or Mekong Delta countries. Now if you see, it faces the South China Sea because it has disputes with China. We just studied that, right? It claims the Paracel Islands over here and it faces the Gulf of Tonkin over here. This is Gulf of Tonkin between Vietnam and China. It shares a northern boundary here with China as well, where China, Vietnam have a boundary dispute, a land boundary dispute also. So clearly the description was referring to Vietnam. So such questions can also come, descriptive questions, where UPSC will give a descriptive paragraph and you have to match it with the correct option. So countries like Vietnam, Japan, right, those of whom we have very close relations, those countries become very important from a mapping point of view. Next, question number 22. Another match the following type of question. We have a list of seas on the left matched with littoral countries. You need to check whether this country is a littoral of the sea. Is it present on the rim of the sea? Mediterranean Sea matched with Israel. Persian Gulf with United Arab Emirates. Red Sea with Yemen. Arabian Sea with Kuwait. I expect at least 80 to 90% of them to give the right answer because we have actually seen these maps in previous questions. If you have observed closely, you will be able to get this answer right. Let's end the poll. Let's see how many of you know the right answer. How many of these pairs are correctly matched? Most of them are saying option C, 56%. Okay, let's examine this. Mediterranean Sea and Israel is a correct match. Israel does open to Mediterranean Sea. We just saw that Haifa port of Israel faces the Mediterranean. United Arab Emirates, it is located in the Persian Gulf near the Hormuz Strait. I'll show you the map. Yemen is indeed a littoral of Red Sea. We just saw that. However, Kuwait, it's not a littoral of Arabian Sea. Fourth one is wrong. Kuwait is far away from Arabian Sea. Look at the map here. It will become very clear to you. See, Yemen is a littoral of Red Sea and Arabian Sea. Got it? United Arab Emirates is a littoral of Persian Gulf. This is the strategic Persian Gulf from where all the oil supplies come from these West Asian countries. See, this is where Kuwait is present, next to Saudi Arabia and Iraq. So this is Arabian Sea here. So Kuwait and Arabian Sea are far away. It's not a littoral of the Arabian Sea. Then you have Gulf of Oman over here. Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman, they are separated by a narrow channel, a narrow strait called the Hormuz Strait, the Strait of Hormuz. It's between Iran and the United Arab Emirates. Got it? Then Israel is here, a littoral of the Mediterranean, along with Egypt, Lebanon, right? And these countries here in the Levant region, they open towards the Mediterranean Sea. So such basic knowledge, geography knowledge is important because these countries are frequently in news. There are conflicts going on, a lot of tensions and volatility. So UPSC focuses on such countries, such important water bodies, and gives you such map-based geography questions, right? So option C is correct. Only 3 given pairs are correctly matched. Next, question number 23. Which of the following ports are located in Bangladesh? Mongla, Sitwe, Matarbari. All the 3 ports were in news. That is why I have chosen this question. All the 3 ports mentioned here, they were in current affairs in the last 1 year. So let's see how many of you get it right. Let's end the poll. Let's see how many of you get the right answer. C, 57%. 1 and 3 only. Okay, let's examine. Mongla Port. You're absolutely correct. It is in Bangladesh. Matarbari Port. It is also coming up in Bangladesh. It's an upcoming project. Both the ports were in news. I'll explain why. Sitwe Port is not in Bangladesh. It's in Myanmar. Even Sitwe Port was recently in news. Correct? So let's look at the maps. See, this is where the Mongla Port is located. Alright? The other major port of Bangladesh includes Chittagong over here. Then you also have Ashuganj near Dhaka over here. It's a riverine port deep inside Bangladesh. Recently, Japan has launched a project in Bangladesh called Matarbari Port over here, right next to Chittagong Port. Right next to Chittagong, near Myanmar's border, Japan is funding the construction of Matarbari project. Now, why is this important? It's important because Matarbari project was supposed to be executed by China as part of its Belt and Road Initiative. But due to several challenges, China couldn't execute the project. Now Japan has stepped in. Japan's funding agency, JICA, which provides for development assistance through concessional loans, has provided the funds to Bangladesh to build the Matarbari port. Japanese companies are involved in the construction of the port. Now this is relevant for India as well because India and Japan have a joint collaboration. We are working together under Asia-Africa Growth Corridor to execute such projects, and India will also play a role in Matarbari port project. The ambition here is to link Matarbari and Chittagong with northeast of India, especially Tripura. Under the Act East policy, the Modi government has laid out an ambitious plan to develop Tripura as an industrial hub. In Tripura, you have important commercial centers like Agartala and Sabroom. These are being developed as industrial clusters of the region. So from Bangladesh and Myanmar, we can further extend these industrial projects and connectivity projects into Southeast Asian countries. This fulfills the vision of India and Japan to drive investments into northeast of India. Is that clear? So through Mongla Port, Chittagong Port and Matarbari Port, India plans to move goods as well into northeast India in order to bypass the Siliguri corridor. It actually gives us alternate access to northeast India. Bangladesh has these rivers that flow down from India, the Ganga, Brahmaputra, the Barak from northeast India. On all these rivers, there are waterways which have been created for inland navigation. So the plan is to connect these ports of Bangladesh with these inland riverine systems to transport the goods inside Bangladesh and bring them out into northeast India. This will connect northeast region with Bay of Bengal. Northeast is landlocked, so it will get sea access to Bay of Bengal via Bangladeshi ports, and it could be further connected with Southeast Asian markets. From Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, investments can be brought into northeast India, especially to Tripura. So this is the grand ambition of India, which is being supported by Japan. Japan also is investing in projects in northeast India. So one such important port in Bangladesh is Matarbari, along with Mongla and Chittagong. Clear? Next you have Sitwe Port, which is in Myanmar, not in Bangladesh. It's present in the Rakhine region, the Rakhine state of Myanmar. It's been in news for the Rohingya crisis. This is where the Rohingya crisis occurred, where Rohingyas were targeted by Myanmar's army. And this is where India has recently inaugurated the Sitwe port as part of the Kaladan project. Just a few days ago, you would have read in news that India and Myanmar have inaugurated the strategic Sitwe port, which has been funded by India and built by India. It's part of the Kaladan project linking Kolkata Haldia port with Sitwe, from where goods can be transported through an inland navigation route over Kaladan river up until Paletwa. From here, the goods can be transported through a road network which has been built that connects with Mizoram of India. So this not only improves trade between India and Myanmar, it will also give us alternate connectivity to northeast of India. So via Sitwe Port and Kaladan River, we can connect with Mizoram without depending on Siliguri corridor, which is a choke point for India near West Bengal. All right. So all these important ports and connectivity projects, they are very, very relevant for the exam. So option C, 1 and 3, that's the correct answer. These two are ports located in Bangladesh. Last two questions for today. For question number 24. Which amongst the following countries is not a part of the Sahel region? The Sahel, it's a region in Africa. Even the Sahel region was making a lot of news over the last 1 year. Alright? So which country is not a part of Sahel? Mauritania, Nigeria, Tanzania, Eritrea. Go ahead and give the answer. Let's see how many of you know the answer. Some are saying C. Even in the poll, most votes are going towards C. Tanzania. Very good. See, Tanzania is in East Africa. Alright? Whereas the African Sahel refers to this region. It refers to this region that stretches all across Africa, in the northern parts of Africa, in the Saharan belt, in the Sahara, Sub-Sahara region. It stretches from the Atlantic Ocean over here to the Red Sea over here. It's a region in northern Africa stretching from east to west, from Red Sea to the Atlantic Ocean. There are several countries that are part of this region that includes Mauritania, Senegal, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, then Chad, parts of Nigeria, Sudan, which we just studied, Eritrea. These are the countries that are part of the African Sahel. This region is very, very volatile because especially in the western part of Sahel over here, terrorism has become a huge concern. in Mauritania, Mali, Burkina Faso, Nigeria and Niger. There are several terrorist outfits operating here. Just recently, just a couple of days ago, you would have read, in Burkina Faso, there has been a major terror attack where many people have been killed. In Nigeria and Niger, there are a lot of terror groups that operate here. You might have heard about a terror group called Boko Haram. Alright, it has aligned with Islamic State. Previously it had aligned with Al-Qaeda and now it has shifted allegiance to Islamic State. There are other branches of Al-Qaeda and ISIS that operate in the African Sahel. So the rise of terrorism has become a major concern here, and Western countries have been involved in fighting terrorism in this region. US, UK and France, they are running their military operations, especially France was closely involved. Because during colonial period, these were French colonies in this part of Western Sahel. So France was conducting a military operation called Operation Barkhane. It was a very long operation going on for many years to tackle terrorism in the Sahel. So France had deployed troops on the ground, special forces and its armed forces on the ground. US and UK were giving intelligence support and covert support to France to fight terrorism. But recently, France withdrew from the region. It has ended Operation Barkhane and has blamed the Wagner Group of Russia for the crisis. Allegations have come up from Western countries that a private mercenary group called Wagner Group of Russia has been operating here, working with dictators and authoritarian regimes and further perpetuating the crisis in the Sahel. Because of the problems reportedly created by Wagner Group, which is supported by Russian intelligence, France has recently withdrawn from Operation Barkhane. It has ended its military operations. Now this is a concern because this could further lead to an increase in radicalism, extremism and terrorism. It has become a major terror hub. Plus Sudan has gone through a major civil war. So that is why the Sahel region is very, very important. Tanzania is far away from here. It's somewhere over here in East Africa facing the Indian Ocean. So based on that basic knowledge, you can eliminate Tanzania and the other three, they are part of the Sahel. So option C is the correct answer. Now we come to the last question for today, the last question under target prelims as well. The proposed Kra Isthmus Canal project is in which country? Is it in Vietnam or China, Thailand or Malaysia? Go ahead, give the answer. Let's see how many of you know the right answer. The Kra Isthmus project was in news. It is being backed by China. China is very proactively promoting it as part of Belt and Road Initiative. So where is the Kra Isthmus located? Most of them are saying Thailand. Very good. The Kra Isthmus is indeed located in Thailand. Now if you observe the map, Thailand, even though it's a very broad country here in Indochina, in the Mekong region, it narrows down over here. It becomes a very narrow, slender country over here. Alright? So this narrow patch of land of Thailand, which separates the Andaman Sea from Gulf of Thailand, this is called Kra Isthmus. Just like a strait is a small water body separating two large land masses, similarly isthmus is a narrow land separating two large water bodies. It's the converse of a strait. Alright? This is the Kra Isthmus, where China has made an ambitious plan with Thailand to build a canal by cutting across Thailand to create an artificial shipping channel like the Suez Canal in Egypt or Panama in Central America. This will cut the distance from China towards Indian Ocean. It will directly link South China Sea with Bay of Bengal, and it will reduce China's dependency on Malacca Strait, which is a choke point for China. The Malacca Strait, which we saw earlier between Singapore and Indonesia, it's a very narrow shipping channel where Western countries are more influential. The US, which has strong military presence in the Indian Ocean, can blockade the Malacca Strait if there are tensions with China. Even India is in a position to blockade Malacca Strait if required. if hostilities come up between India and China, through our Tri-Services Command in Andaman Nicobar, we can block out Malacca Strait, thereby punishing China. China is heavily dependent on it because all its oil imports from West Asian countries passes through Malacca Strait. So that is why China is desperately seeking alternate routes to connect with Indian Ocean without depending on Malacca Strait. So one such project is the Kra Isthmus Canal project, which has been proposed. Thailand is yet to agree completely, but it's a very important proposed project. China is pushing for it, but Thailand is hesitant. If Thailand agrees, China will cut open Thailand over here, create a narrow shipping channel, thus connecting Gulf of Thailand and South China Sea directly with Andaman Sea and Bay of Bengal. So Chinese ships can directly reach Indian Ocean without passing through Malacca Strait. So that is why the topic is important, and the correct answer is option C, Thailand. Alright? So this completes my discussion on places in news. Through these 25 questions, we have covered a good 45 places at least, and trust me, all these places are important. They were in the news over the last 15 months. Through a lot of research, we have picked out these topics, and we really hope these questions come in the upcoming prelims. Right? If not the same question, at least from the same region, if questions can come, you can easily answer them. So this completes Target Prelims 2023. I really hope you have enjoyed all these 22 sessions. If you have benefited, do support us by liking these videos, share them with other aspirants, also comment below and subscribe to our channel. So don't forget, 28th May, after your prelims, we'll have a live session at 7 p.m. discussing all the questions, giving you the answer keys and analyzing the question paper. So I really wish every one of you all the very best. Stay confident, back yourselves, trust your preparation, and you will do well in the examination. So that is it from my side. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.